Hi there everyone. I hope you're doing okay. I'm definitely live. And while I wait for more of you to join me, I want to share how I'm feeling right now. There's a part of me that's thinking, oh, I wish I wasn't doing this as a live. I wish I'd actually decided to record something and put it out there, because this is a hugely emotive topic. Sorry, just to say, today's live is going to be about shame that we feel during perimenopause and menopause. It came up on a post on, I think it's Sarah Ball. Oh, I feel really bad now. Dr. Sarah Ball, she's a GP specialist, menopause GP, and it came up on her account at how so many women that she sees are experiencing shame. And so I thought, yes, it's time to share some thoughts on that. However, in terms of today, I mean, I feel like it's meant to be in a way, although I'm also feeling like, oh gosh, this is going to be tricky. So I'm right at the end of my menstrual cycle. So I'm pretty sure that I'm going to start my bleed tomorrow. So I'm right in the void. And any of you that follow me or have worked with me or listened to me on lives or have watched any of my other videos, you'll have heard me talk about the menstrual cycle and how at the end of our cycles, there is something that the Red School, who I've worked with, who I've learned from, they have termed the void. And it's this time of right at the end of our menstrual cycles where we kind of feel like we're pulled down into this kind of dark, kind of bottomless place really before our bleed starts. Now, I'm not going to go into detail about that today, but that's where I am right today. And not only that, but I don't know if how many of you are aware. I mean, it is the winter solstice. I think lots of us know about that. But also there's a huge astrological change going on in the universe. Jupiter and Saturn are going to be really close to each other tonight. Late afternoon apparently is going to be the time where they're the most closest. And they've not been this close. The planets have not gone that close to each other in over 400 years. It's a huge thing. I've heard Brian Cox talking all about it. So that's kind of the science, but also there's a lot of talk about it opening up a whole load of new energies. So it's quite a big, it's a big day. And also I'm feeling all the feels today. So I've been reflecting on this topic of shame in menopause. I'm feeling quite overwhelmed by it, I'll be honest. It's absolutely huge. And I'm also consciously aware of the depths of it and how I'm on an Instagram live with lots of you. Some of you, I can see some of you coming in who I know. And many of you who obviously I don't know. And so I'm just really aware of that. Because I'm not wanting to trigger and to kind of, to trigger anyone into connecting deeply with that place right now. I mean, that may happen. I can't, that's okay. But I just want to be mindful of that. Because it is so huge. So lots of you have joined now. I'm going to get into what I want to share with you. And actually, just before I do that, it has got me thinking, and I think I'm going to do a workshop on this in the new year. A workshop where you sign up, we're on a Zoom call, there's a certain number of us, and actually I can support you through this to really recognise what the heck this is all about, but in a kind of more contained place. So today, really, I'm going to be talking quite generally about sort of issues and factors that I want to share with you, but I know I'm not even going to touch the surface. It's really interesting for me to actually talk to you about this because working with people who are experiencing shame has been my career. It's gone through the whole of my career, actually. I specialised before working with women in perimenopause and menopause. My speciality was working with in looked after children and adopted children's services. So I've done so much training around shame. So yeah, it's kind of deep. It's deep within me. And of course I have my own experiences. So the first thing I want to just mention is, what is shame? I'm going to give you a bit of a brief definition, but in a way I think it's so hard to put words to this emotion because it's so deep and and it can be so painful. But the what it is and how it's different from guilt, because I think that's the distinction that's really important to make, because sometimes we get the two mixed up. Shame is when we feel like we are wrong. There is something not okay with us, with me. There is something not okay with who I am. So it's about the self. Whereas guilt is I have done something wrong. So guilt is almost like a layer outside of shame. So it's when you get that feeling of like, oh, I did that. I did that thing, whatever it might be, and I really wish I hadn't done that. I've done something wrong, but not I am wrong. So they are very different and distinct. So of course, to feel, that there is something wrong with who you are, who I am, is it's foundational. It's the bottom of everything. It's really interesting because thinking about it, because I don't talk explicitly, or haven't been talking explicitly about this on the course that I do with women. However, I've got something that I'm going to share with you in a few moments, some words that one of the women who did the course kindly shared with me. But actually I'm realising that, of course, it makes sense. A lot of the women who come and seek support and who have gone through the course are experiencing shame. So I think it's kind of almost, it kind of underpins the anxiety of which I see in a lot of women. And what I want to give a bit of a framework about shame, and then I'm going to just touch on different kind of reasons why I think we experience shame and why. And I'm not going to talk that long on that. I'm just going to kind of go through it just to help you have a kind of concept about it and to understand why this might be if you're experiencing shame. And then I'm going to do at the end, I don't normally do this, I don't think I've ever done this before, but I'm going to do a very short visualization. It's literally about 4 or 5 minutes long, but I just felt really called to do something that actually is very soothing and can be very, very helpful. So I'm going to do that at the end for anyone that wants to stay and do that. It's something I do actually do in the course, and it's short. It's actually incredibly powerful and very beautiful. So yeah, I've noticed how powerful that is for women who are struggling with shame and anxiety, and so I want to share that with you today. So there's a concept that I talk about a lot in my work, and it's this concept that we are driving our bus in life. It's almost like we're at the steering wheel and we're driving our way through life, and we have lots of passengers. And in a way, the passengers are all the kind of thoughts and feelings that kind of pop up and sort of say things to ourselves. We're driving along and there might be some passengers that are really scathing, that are really critical, really negative, and really like, why are you going that way? What are you doing? Oh, you don't know what you're doing. You're rubbish at driving, blah, 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 blah. And there are some passengers that are very cautious. Ooh, don't do that. That's not a good idea. And then there are some very supportive passengers. So that's kind of a concept we use to explain about all the different thoughts and feelings that we have that impact ourselves. Now, the shame, this is really, really important. This is really, really, really important bit. I've been thinking about this. Shame, even though it's this sense that there is something wrong with me, it is actually still a part of us. It is actually a passenger on our bus. It is not our core true essence. It's not who we are, but it's a passenger on our bus who really tests and really is quite sharp about the things that it says to us. Like, you are not, there is something, and in a way you can imagine, if you were to visualize this passenger, it would have a really really kind of, well, anyway, the look on its face would be very I don't even know what the word would be really, but in my mind I can imagine that it would be like, there is something seriously wrong with you. You are not right. There is something wrong with you and who you are. But shame is not who you are. It is not you driving the bus. That is the core essence of who you are, and that's untouchable. So nothing touches the actual energy and essence of who you are, your true self, this kind of deep knowing, this part of yourself in terms of who you are. Now, what I think happens, or not what I think happens, it is what I think happens, but it's from, I've not just sort of made this up, from reading and listening to the women I work with, listening to all different approaches and different people in this area. It seems that during perimenopause, and then definitely menopause, we are like cracked open. It's almost like we're really kind of really cracked open. And it's almost like, if we go with the analogy of the bus, it's almost like we kind of stop the bus. We've been driving through life, doing what we're doing, then we kind of like stop the bus. And then we suddenly are consciously aware that we're really not sure, this is where we want to be going. So we're not sure we want to be going that way. But it's more than that. It's more like, actually, I don't recognise this bus. I don't quite know what this bus is and why it's that colour and why it's this shape. And it's just almost, you just suddenly opened up to kind of look at everything. Sort of really cracked open. And this is the kind of identity transformation that goes on in perimenopause and menopause. The hormonal changes that go on during perimenopause, the fluctuations, and we're all over the place. Like I say, almost like crackers open, and all of this kind of comes to the surface. And it's almost like then shame, the passenger shame, has an absolute field day, because it's like, oh, this is my moment. Look, she's vulnerable, There's a real pause in proceedings here. I'm going to really, this is my time. And so we can really hear that shame voice coming through strongly as we kind of decide, we sort of start to question lots and lots of things. And it's not that, in a way, these aren't new things. It's just that the hormone, so estrogen as a hormone, I describe it like the summer sun. So it just smooths over things that feel crappy in life or whatever. Just smooths over things. And it's almost like that's kind of, the summer sun's gone off, and it's almost like we're now aware of all those bits of ourselves, of our lives, of everything around us that we're just not quite so happy with anymore. And so our identity goes through a real kind of open phase. And of course, that means that it's really tricky, and a lot of anxiety comes to the surface, and a lot of, if there's any past trauma and grief, loss, that can come to the surface. But it also means it's a time of potential, incredible growth. And if we can go with it, it's a time of potential emotional maturation into our mature years. And it has incredible power and potential. Now, let me just pause for a moment and talk about this passenger shame and all of the factors that kind of have helped to grow this passenger. And this is, I'm talking generally here, we will all have our own individual experiences as to why this passenger sorry, I try not to look at the comments because it distracts me, but yeah, I've just seen the passengers can get off the bus. Yeah, absolutely. I know, I totally hear you, Elizabeth. And let me come back to that actually, because that is what we try to do, and that's a trap that we get stuck into. So I'm going to come back to that. But this passenger shame, why? What are the factors that have or what are the experiences that have helped it to grow and develop? And I would say that whilst there are lots of our own, like I say, our own reasons as to why this shame passenger has kind of developed, what I want to share with you, and this is where I'm feeling it now, is that a lot of it is not your shit. This is not your shit. Some of it is, a lot of it isn't. So a lot of it is about the wider context of which we are living. And I'm not going to go into massive detail about this, but just to kind of give you a flavour of what I can kind of see really, is that there is a huge societal context within which we are we are grown up and conditioned, and I'm talking generally here, we don't all experience this, we're all individuals, but generally there's a context of women in particular not expressing ourselves. It's not okay to express who we really truly are. We might have done that when we were a little bit, and then that gets really squashed down and repressed for lots of reasons, to keep the society. We grow in terms of our particular culture here in the West. It's a very patriarchal, very paternalized kind of culture really, and so we are squashed from expressing ourselves as women. And I mean that in every way, expressing joy and pleasure, expressing anger, real kind of frustration and anger, expressing sexual pleasure, whatever it might be. We're really kind of repressed from expressing ourselves. And there's a real fear around this. And actually, some of this shit really isn't ours, because some of it, especially perimenopause and menopause, this is what I just think is fascinating. It seems like we get a bit of a direct line back to ancestral kind of shit, as it were. And so there is a real fear around this, because, as I'm sure many of you will know, women were killed for expressing themselves. They were burnt at the stake. And so there's a real fear around expressing our true selves and all of those emotions. And oh my gosh, so many women feel fearful of the angst and the anger and all those emotions, because it's kind of there, but dear Lord, we're not allowed to express it, and so we push it down. And that kind of goes back to the kind of we don't want to get all the passengers off the bus, because that's also what we're trained to do, well, conditioned to do in a way, to not express and to not feel. And so we kind of push it, we try and get the passengers off the bus, and so we get into this tussle of trying to get them off, trying to chuck shame off. But actually, shame just comes right back on again. And so we might argue with shame and say, go, whatever it might be. And we use up so much mental energy, because of course this is a metaphor, this is an analogy, but in a way it's us having those battles in our minds against these parts of ourselves to make sure that we repress and don't express. And it's exhausting. And that's another thing. By this point in our lives, we've been doing this for so long, and we come to our 40s, overwhelmed, exhausted, stressed, having battled with a lot of this crap throughout our lives, and then our hormonal changes kind of are fluctuating, we're cracked open, and boom, it's like, oh, I can't repress it anymore, but what do I do with it? And we feel and so that shame can kind of almost take over. So yeah, there is the kind of the societal context of being very, of, like I say, repressing our emotions, but also quite a lot of us are almost conditioned to be quite disconnected, which I guess is a similar sort of theme. And then there's the whole issue around periods, and in terms of hormones, you know, we've experienced so many years of kind of shame around our periods, especially our generation. I hope and pray that things will shift for the next generation. I mean, gosh, my daughters, I mean, they're 6 and 8. They know all about, you know, periods and all the different energies and bleeding, what it means. You know, it's life. It's being a girl. It's really important. And they love it. They're fascinated. Whereas with me, it wasn't even talked about at all. And I'm the third girl. I'm the third daughter. But yeah, not talked about. So there's a lot of shame around the most natural process there is going. The only reason why there are still humans on this planet, and yet there's shame attached to it, you know, and hide away your sanitary channel, all that kind of stuff. So many of us have experienced shame, you know, it's dirty and all that kind of stuff around our periods and our hormones. So then we come to this phase, well, this is like, you know, all of that on steroids. It's like shame times 100, you know, about our hormones changing. And then of course we've got the factor of ageism, the society we're in that's kind of really sort of celebrating youth, and well, God, I'm just like, oh gosh, so it celebrates kind of youth and all that crap. But at the same time, you know, there is the shame around the menstrual cycle. So celebrating, you know, being able to have babies and all that kind of stuff. But actually there's the shame around the actual menstrual cycle. Oh my God, it's so messed up. Anyway, these are all the different factors, I think, that kind of weave their way through. And in terms of ageism, you know, the changing hormones, the idea that we may be going into, well, let's use the word menopause, because perimenopause is relatively, talks about is quite a newish term, although of course actually menopause is just one day and everything's perimenopause before it. But you know, that's these stories, I guess these stories that get passed down around menopause and what that means, and that you're past it, and the aging, that women who are older are not, you know, no use to society, all that kind of negative stuff about growing older, which is not getting any better. God, I'm really on my soapbox today. I know I was last Monday, but I feel like I'm on it even more today. I will come to the anchor very soon. But yeah, all of that is not getting any better. And so there's this push, and it just makes me feel ill. It really does. But this kind of needing to be someone you're not. You know, and that's the shame. There's something wrong with me. No, there's something right with you. You're a woman. You've got hormones. They are now fluctuating. You may need lots of different bits of support, whether that's HRT, nutrition, exercise, psychological stuff, whatever it is. Stuff comes to the surface. We need to process all that kind of stuff. You need extra support. We need support through this. There's nothing wrong. There's something very, very right, fundamentally right. And if we go through the process rather than repressing it and trying to pretend it's not happening, and that process of trying to get rid of it and trying to not feel really feeds the shame. So just trying to push it away, and boom, it kind of comes back even stronger. So yeah, we need to kind of be going through the process. I'm just trying to see on my notes whether there's anything in particular that I've missed out. Well, I guess, and then, so it all comes through, all of this. So think about all those passengers. It all feeds into how we perceive our bodies, our minds, our beliefs, everything really. So let me just read out a few words from somebody who has done my course, and I just asked her recently about shame, just to share some thoughts on it, because as I say, I realise that probably the women coming into the course are experiencing this, but I focus very much on anxiety, but actually underpinning it is probably the shame. And I just think a lot of you are going to resonate with this. So let me just read. So without doubt, the thoughts of shame that I had were reinforced by loss of self. And I hear that a lot from a lot of you. I didn't identify with the woman I'd become. I felt inadequate in every aspect of my life, work, parenting, my role as a wife. I felt like the old me could cope with anything thrown at me from any part of my life. But during this change of life, I'd lost all confidence, and I felt so ashamed of the person I'd become, the one who lived in constant fear. So yeah, that's what I see a lot. It's kind of there's the anxiety, and then it's then the belief of who that person is, and this kind of loss. It's like I say, the kind of bus. It's kind of like, actually, I don't know who I am anymore. And kind of feeling ashamed of that. I'd lost my emotional flexibility and couldn't be the person most people, including myself, had always known. I guess before this course, I'd felt I'd lost the real me and had been replaced by a shadow of my former self. I genuinely thought my soul had died. My inner lights had gone out. And I think a lot of you are going to resonate with that. And in a way, what I want to say to that is that this is a phase of going into the darkness. This is a phase of change, of initiation. This is a phase, in a way, of kind of almost pausing the bus and kind of going, I don't quite know, where I am. I don't know whether I want to go that way. What happened? What was that all about? It's all, and it's dark. I'm not quite sure. And it's a real kind of bottomless time. It's a time of transformation. It's a death of part of us, and then in time, if we can go through it, a new beginning. I mean, in a way, I'm almost seeing the bus kind of driving through a kind of a barren land, really, and that's okay. There's nothing wrong with that. It's actually a really important part of the process of emotional maturation, growing, our inner world kind of growing and moving towards our kind of, what they call it, second spring, don't they? The kind of post-menopausal self. So, and really, really interestingly, she says some lovely things about the course and how it allowed me to understand the power in the changes I was experiencing. Yeah, in the changes. So kind of going with it, and to understand some of the raging emotions that I swam with every day. It gave me strategies to not live in fear, and as a consequence, the lights slowly turned back on, and I don't live in a world of self-loathing anymore. I'm easier on me now. I spend time on myself and take comfort in knowing I have the tools to ride the days that come crashing in on me, as they sometimes do. I'm not ashamed of telling those around me that I'm menopausal now, and I'm working through a sea of emotions and cannot always be part of their rescue team. I've learned that moving through the stages of menopause shouldn't be feared, and it gives me the strength to accept this is part of life for all women. Being on the course helped me to navigate to safer shores with people who understood me and offered me comfort, not judgment. I don't feel shame now, just a sense of knowing and relief. And that, I would say, that lady has come to that change from the shame to now knowing and relief. It was within 6 weeks, and it's because she turned towards herself, connected deeply with herself, and turned towards the feelings of shame and fear and anxiety. So instead of kind of pushing it away and wishing it wasn't there, which kind of perpetuates it, she turned towards it. Now I'm going to do so much more I could say on this topic. I am going to do a workshop on this. I'm going to do for those of you that have joined more recently, I said at the beginning, I'm going to do a workshop on this in the new year, where actually it's, it's a Zoom call, and it's more, and I can kind of support you, smaller group, and we can actually look at this in more detail. I'm just kind of almost giving you a smattering of some of my thoughts around it. But what I'm going to do now is a really, really brief because it's literally a few minutes, but it's amazing how powerful a few minutes can be. And it's called the soothing colour imagery. So those of you that want to stay and do it, or just listen, you can either do it or you can just listen. You do what the heck you want. It's your time. But I'm going to go through it. And it's from, I want to acknowledge, Chris Irons and Elaine Beaumont. So it's from their book called The Compassionate Mind Workbook. So the lady who I've just who sent me those words, she's gone through the course, and she has done this exercise, and I remember it being very powerful for all of it. It always is very powerful for all the women that go through the course. So it's going to give you a little taster of that. So I'm going to get myself, so get in a nice kind of upright position, and if you're okay to do so, close your eyes, or if you prefer, choose a spot on the ground in front of you and focus on that spot. So we're just going to focus on some soothing breathing for a few moments, allowing your body to slow down by finding a calming rate of breathing. Breathe into your belly rather than your chest. And notice your body slowing down. When you're ready, imagine a colour that you find calming, soothing, or peaceful. Take your time with this. Just imagine a colour that you find calming, soothing, or peaceful. Mindfully observing what colour or colours come to mind. Don't worry if you find this difficult, and if it helps, bring your awareness back to your soothing breathing, and after a while, try to bring a soothing colour to mind. When you're ready, imagine your soothing colour in front of you. Maybe you could imagine it in the form of a light or mist. And after a moment, imagine this soothing light or mist is moving towards you, slowly surrounding and supporting you. Notice how having this soothing or calming colour surrounding and supporting you leaves you feeling inside. If you can, imagine this colour has an awareness. It wants to support you. It wants to help you to feel soothed and calm. Focus on this for a few moments. You might want to imagine that this colour is entering your body through the area around your heart and moving through your body, soothing and calming you. Continue mindfully paying attention to this image for another few moments. noticing the sensations that are present as you do. And when you're ready, I'm going to bring the soothing colour visualisation to an end. So open your eyes if you had them closed and just bring yourself back to the here and now. Oh, I love it. The power of colour is quite something. Oh, so if any of you did that live, I don't know if any of you did, feel free to pop in the comments the colour or colours that came to you, or any observations, just while I wrap up, and I can see how that was for you. So there we go. That was some thoughts, like I say, on shame in menopause, and some kind of frameworks and ideas about why that may be. And I guess the closing point that I want to make is that it is a part of us, but it is not us, and I hope I can get that across. It's really tricky. I work a lot on this in the courses. I'm just gonna say, colour was purple, beautiful, and it made me feel supported. Thank you. You're more than welcome. So glad you did it. That's lovely. Oh, I wonder whether it was when you said purple, I imagined like a deep purple, but then actually another lady's just put a purple heart, and that was quite the purple heart here on our phones is kind of mid purple, isn't it? But I'm just wondering whether that purple was like a deep purple or a pale purple. Another purple. Oh, it's all about the purple today. Oh, and I'm just sometimes I kind of look that up in terms of, is there anyone here that really knows the chakras? I'm quite intrigued as to which colour purple is. Anyway, you can look that up. Yeah, that's a beautiful, someone's just said, you are the sky, not the weather. Absolutely. It was deep and warm. Oh, lovely. Deep, warm purple for today, winter solstice. Oh, that's just given me all the shivers. That's beautiful. Thank you for sharing that. So, I've forgotten what I was just saying in terms of my closing point, really. Yeah, that it is not you. The shame is a part. And like I say, unfortunately, it's a part. Some of it's not our shit. It's other stuff, but some of it is our shit, and that's okay too. And it's a time that we can heal, we can turn towards. But yeah, so the two things I'm going to say is that it isn't you. It makes you feel like it's you. The shame, it kind of really it's quite insidious. It gets right inside of you, and it makes you feel like there's something really wrong with you. And of course, lots of the menopausal kind of symptoms, as it were, do make you feel like, that you really, you don't recognise yourself in lots of different ways. However, it's the fact that we think that that's not normal, that's kind of the issue, really, rather than actually this, a lot of what we experience is normal. It's the fight with it that's the struggle. And then the turning towards, which is kind of linked, really, to actually allow and to surrender in a way that visualization is a way of kind of pausing, surrendering, and allowing a soothing colour to go through. Right, I am going to finish there. It's been lovely to be here with you today. And actually, because I started off, didn't I, saying, I'm in the void, I'm kind of at the end of my menstrual cycle, and there's a lot kind of going on in the universe, lots of energies, but I'm actually feeling much more grounded and soothed, especially doing that visualization. So thank you for that. And I hope I won't be doing a live before Christmas. I will be doing posts and stuff like that. So wishing you, because it's me actually here, wishing you the festive season that you're going to have, whatever that may be. It's obviously different for lots of us, which I'm quite intrigued about, and I think in a way it's quite interesting to have something completely different. It's painful for a lot of us, me included. It's difficult, but in a way what is the gift in that? What is the gift in doing Christmas different from the norm? There will be something in there for you. So season's blessings, and I will be back. I'll do a live at some point, I'm sure, whether it's might be in the new year. I don't know if I'll do one between Christmas and New Year, maybe if there's something that's coming up. All right then, everyone, see you, bye.